You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty.
We flew up there. We rented a U-Haul van. This whole time, she's been working behind my back with my buddy.
That buck is beautiful. It's a stud. There's usually a natural fear of the grizzly situation.
Immediately as we're setting up camp, there's a sow just running. And after that trip, that was like really life-changing.
Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and tonight my guest is Hunter Mcwaters. So tonight we're going to talk about blacktail, because Hunter went to Kodiak Island on a sort of DIY, do-it-yourself blacktail hunt.
Great hunt.
Which we just published this film of your hunt that you filmed and edited and produced all on your own. And it's a pretty cool little video.
Yeah.
And I had some gear questions.
Sure.
A couple, like, genuinely, what did you bring? And then why did you bring that?
Sure.
That kind of gear too, because your experience level is still pretty new.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be nice about this episode is you're coming from Virginia.
Yes. I do not claim to be an expert, but I just do what I can do.
Right. And and I think it'll be cool for a lot of guys that want to go to Kodiak, especially the guys East Coast who haven't, really gone on some out-of-state trips. They're used to hunting some whitetail in the backyard there, and now they're like, hey, I want to go to Kodiak and chase some blacktail on a western hunt.
It's a great way to get your feet wet in Alaska. Hopefully you don't actually get your feet wet, but...
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I think that's really interesting. So, and for those of you who haven't seen the video, go check it out. That buck that your buddy takes,
my buddy, Ned,
that
107-inch buck.
That buck is beautiful. It's a stud blacktail.
We couldn't believe it when we walked up on that thing.
And the time of year was a little different than what I typically see.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys are trying to get on Kodiak during the rut.
Right.
Later in the year,
Right.
Bucks chasing and fighting each other. Mm-hmm. You guys were gluttons. I mean, you went during the mosquito phase.
The mosquitoes actually weren't that bad.
No?
No, yeah. Probably because it was like 30-mile-an-hour wind the whole time, minimum. But
what's interesting is your buck is in velvet.
The first one that our other friend Tommy shoots is in velvet.
Okay.
Our two were hard-horned.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially Ned's was hard-horned.
Yeah.
That thing, I mean, I took a long look at it because he's such a stud Sitka blacktail.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that thing's just a cool buck.
Yeah, he's got split G2s and like a big cheater and nice eye guards. And
yes. And so let's just start out with, just walk me through some of your hunt. And guys, gals, you folks that are listening, just follow along and kind of think about, rather than have Hunter just kind of tell us, well, you go here and you go there. I just want to hear your story on how you ended up out there.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was kind of interesting how I ended up there because, so 2019, I did my first trip to Alaska. And it was also with my friend Ned. And so it was the next year. And after that trip, that was like really life-changing. Like, I mean, after that trip, I was like, yep, I'm all in this Western hunting thing. This is what I want to do. I started my podcast like right after that trip and just dove in. Like, I'm all in or nothing. So I was just like full send. So the next year though, so I started the podcast, had that going for about a year, but I really hadn't like put the blocks together that I wanted to do film yet.
First year you went, like, did you just like jump on a plane and like, was it similar?
Yeah, the first year we did a walk-in DIY caribou hunt.
Like rented a car?
Yeah, it was in the middle of COVID. We flew up there. We rented a U-Haul van because it's way cheaper. It's a hot tip. And just drove somewhere to some public ground that was closed to motor vehicles. So we weren't dealing with the local ATV kind of crowd. And we just walked in about, I think, 6-7 miles, great caribou habitat, but the herd had just left like a week before. I mean, the sign was super thick, but they weren't there, so we had to move on. And we almost killed a couple, but they were smaller bulls. We weren't exactly sure in the moment if they weren't cows, and we didn't want to risk that, so we didn't pull the trigger. But still, life changing.
So you went to Kodiak,
yes,
for caribou.
No. This was the previous year.
You did go after caribou.
But
it was
Kodiak.
mainland Alaska.
Mainland, yeah.
Okay. Because they do have reindeer
They do.
on Kodiak.
Right.
So you went mainland Alaska.
Right.
Just flew in, got a
U-Haul van.
drove into some spot, hiked in, and you just missed the migration or something barely. And then you got your feet wet, kind of going for it, and then came back. Then you're like, okay, now I need to go to Kodiak.
Yes. So I want to go back to Alaska very bad. But the whole time, me and my buddy Ned are trying to kind of plan, like, what would we do? Would we go caribou again? Would we go to Kodiak? And he really wanted to do Kodiak because he had been before. And so we were kind of kicking around stuff. I already had 2 out-of-state trips planned.
Yes.
So I didn't know if I could get away with it with work. It was sketchy, family stuff. And I kind of was talking about it with my wife, and she was like, I don't know, I think that's a little much this year, whatever. Get to Christmas time. She surprises me. This whole time, she's been working behind my back with my buddy Ned and bought me a ticket to Kodiak.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
that
really
was cool. So wives, buy your husbands a trip to Kodiak. That's how we ended up out there. But the whole time, my buddy was kind of sneakily this because like you said, a lot of people go during the rut and stuff like that. And the boat thing, and that just never. I'm not knocking it, but to me, it just didn't appeal to me. I like kind of the immersive experience of being out there.
Yeah, what people don't know is often you can get like a charter boat or something. They park out in the ocean there in the inlets, and then you day hunt the island, then you come back and you have this cushy kind of boat, experience, and you go back and forth. And, but I've never done that. It doesn't really appeal to me either. Yeah. I just want to be feet on the ground, and I want to be spending the night.
Yeah, I like being out there, kind of just the whole immersive experience. So when we had been talking about it before, that's kind of what we agreed would be a cool trip.
Okay.
Is this August, because you're up in the Alpine. It's beautiful. The weather's pretty nice generally. It just, it's just kind of magical. Like everything's green and the deer are like orange and,
they really pop.
Yeah. And it's just up there, you're up high. And plus, I just love the idea of my hunting season starting in August, and a lot of,
it doesn't interfere with any other hunts.
Right.
Like there's a lot of epic, mule deer rut hunts in November or even whitetail hunts. And so if you go in August, you're getting that awesome experience without it cutting into other great hunts.
And we flew into a alpine lake, so it's kind of that iconic Alaskan experience. The bush plane, and you can get 3 tags. That usually, if there's not a bad winter kill that year, there's plentiful deer.
So how did you come up with? How did you go about? So your wife bought your plane ticket for you.
Yes, and
then you went through the planning of a vehicle, or
again, me and Ned worked together on that, but we used one of those apps that you can rent private people's trucks and stuff.
Okay.
And we got Airbnbs.
And then when you went about picking a spot on a map, did you just pick a lake?
So we talked to our pilot. He was really cool. He was flexible. And he actually flew us around
How'd you find a pilot?
So my buddy Ned had flown with him before, 2 years before this. And there's a couple good air services on Kodiak. They're pretty. That's the other good thing about this hunt. If you're looking at doing a fly-in caribou hunt, especially now, I mean, you got to book 2-3 plus years out, put deposits down. It's very expensive.
A fly-in caribou hunt on mainland Alaska.
Right.
Let's be specific.
Right, to clear that up. But this hunt on Kodiak, for right now anyway, is a little easier to get a flight.
Yep.
So
you just made some phone calls to a charter service he'd used in the past.
Yes.
And then they recommended a couple places where guys hunt, and you guys made a deal, and they.
Yeah, he was cool. He actually flew us around a couple lakes.
Yep.
And I mean, at that time of year, the deer pop against the vegetation so much we could see deer from the plane.
Yeah.
Which that's the only species in Alaska that you can fly and hunt on the same day, I believe.
Look again this year because the regs change all the time. So you fly in, you land in a plane, you land on the lake.
That we thought looked good, yeah.
That you thought looked good after buzzing it and going, there's a lot of deer here.
Yeah.
And they do pop. They're like orange, red against the green. You can't miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Same thing on Prince of Wales Island in August, up in the high alpine areas, because there's where a lot of the deer hang out. I've done that in August as well. And those bucks hang in big bachelor herds in velvet up there. And then they shed their velvet, anywhere from the last 10 days of August up into September. But once they're pretty hard horn, they kind of drop off the mountains and kind of drop low pretty quickly. And so they're harder to kill. So Prince of Wales, but so in Kodiak, you land on the lake, and then what?
So then we just kind of got up. There's actually a really nice little flat spot right by the lake, and we just did a drop camp. So our gear was more of drop camp style. Like we weren't like doing ultralight backpacking stuff. So we had kind of a base camp right there, and then we would just hike out during the day, and we had a pretty good amount of real estate we could cover right there. Near the lake.
Now it's thick because you guys are pretty late in August, and so lots of foliage. It's actually, I mean, even the bucks, the last couple, the ones you take on the last days, those deer, they're covered up in brush almost to the point where if you're not going to see them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're neck deep.
When I first saw my buck, I thought he was bedded down, but he was standing up. It's just the brush was so tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a challenging part of the hunt. And, a lot of people think that if they go there to Kodiak, they're going to see just blacktails by the hundreds and hundreds.
Yes. And I'm not going to lie. I was one of those. We had some success early on in the trip. And then we're kind of like, this is going to be pretty easy. We're kind of getting a little confident. And then the weather changed. It got, cloudy, rainy, windy, and the bucks disappeared for like 4 days. I mean, we glassed and glassed and glassed, and we saw a couple does, a couple spikes.
Yep.
And then, that weather broke on the last day, and the magic happened. But it was not an easy hunt. I don't think there is an easy hunt.
So in August, I've had the same thing happen in Prince of Wales Island. I've never been so wet in my life. And that's one of the things. That's one of the tips if you're going to go to Southeast Alaska or to Kodiak to hunt deer, or to hunt anything.
Yeah.
7 days isn't enough. Like it's possible for you to be reined in or weathered in the whole duration of your hunt. It really is too short. You need 10 and I'd say 14 days if you can. If you're going to make the effort, do your best to try to give yourself all the days you need, because you never know how that weather's going to hit. And the same thing is on Prince of Wales Island. It could be like when I went there, we had 2 days and there were deer everywhere.
Yeah.
I shot one with a bow because that was my goal. And then it was like, okay, let's break out the rifle and get couple more, because I think I had 3 tags. And my brother-in-law had 3 tags. There's so many deer. They just want to knock them that population down. So you have as a non-resident, you have an ample set of tags you can fill. Now, when you get in there, we got hit by like 5 days of torrential downpour, and fog. You couldn't even see like a few feet.
Yeah.
The water was flowing so hard where we had our tent. We had a little mountain hardware tent, that it felt like a water bed, because there was about 4 inches deep of stream bed just flowing off the mountain. When we filled our water bottles, we just opened the door and just filled the runoff. And literally you pushed on it, it was like a water bed. My finger is like this deep in the water. I'm like, I filmed it and I'm like, this is insane. And we zipped it back up. Thankfully, the bottom of the tent did not leak.
Wow, that's good.
And, but we didn't have a stove back then. I was not as experienced as I am now.
Yeah.
And a lot of things about the hunt were rough. And now I would crush that hunt, giving my skill level, my ability to, handle the outdoors and the weather and the elements better in a more skilled manner.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, during those 5 days, there's no point in hunting. You couldn't see 3 feet,
right,
because of the fog and the torrential rainpour. Plus, the deer are just hunkered down.
Yeah, they are.
So we had to wait that out. Now we're there. I think we're there about 7 or 8 days now. It would have been time for us to go home. But then it dropped. We were there for, I think we had a 10 or 11 day hunt planned. So all of a sudden it dried. The sun came out, and there were deer by the hundreds.
They just start popping
everywhere.
out. Yeah. Yeah, this area where we saw these deer, like, we'd probably glassed it for like 3 days, this basin, and just tore it apart. Saw virtually nothing, a couple does.
Yeah.
We probably glassed over these bucks we killed like dozens of times.
Right.
They were just in there.
Yep.
And definitely to your point about have as much time as you can, because especially if you're dealing with like a bush flight, you might not be able to fly out. Like, it was a small miracle that we even got to fly out on the day we had planned. Like, you might lose 2-3 days in town. You can't even fly out to your spot.
Correct. Right. And you get stuck out there too to fly back.
Yeah.
Giving yourself all those days, I mean, we were able to kill basically 5 more bucks.
Nice.
4 or 5 bucks in that day and a half of great weather. And so you can get a lot done in a short window when the weather is great.
Right.
When I went there to Kodiak, in my Kodiak films that I published last spring, I went there with the folks from Leopold. And we got some foxes, and we got some stud.
That footage is so beautiful.
Yeah, we got some hardhorn bucks. But same thing happened. We were weathered in a number of times. A tsunami came.
I remember that.
And or an earthquake and tsunami. And we had to hold up during that as well. And the deer, they don't, in heavy storms, they tuck in. It's not that great of hunting.
Yeah.
But when the sun breaks, they come out and, like, they're everywhere. And we saw, hundreds.
Yeah.
But there were other days where we had a hard time finding them at all.
Yeah.
When they hunker down, they hunker down. But we were in the rut. It's a little different than in August.
Sure.
But the weather thing holds true no matter what in Alaska.
Yeah, it's Alaska, yeah.
So give yourself the days. And if you hit this string of just incredible weather, good for you.
Yeah.
But generally, that's not the case. Same thing with hunting black bears on POW Island. We experienced the same thing where, you could have 10 days in a row of just beautiful weather, and you just have an incredible bear hunt, and you're done in the first few days. Or you could only get 3 good days out of a 10-day window. Yeah. But you need those days.
Right. And on that, too, I mean, especially this style of hunt, like, this is not the time to skimp on gear. Like I said, we weren't packing in, and the weight allowances are pretty good. You can't take,
a wall tent.
Actually, some local guys do, but you end up paying more. But
right.
The Haviland Beavers do have a pretty good weight allowance. But all I'm trying to say is, like I brought in a nice big, I took a Hilleberg Damage 2 GT with a big, nice vestibule in it. And I took like a little cot. Just as like, if you have the weight allowance and you're doing a drop camp hunt like that in Alaska, don't be stuck to your ultralight tent where you're going to be.
I recommend a teepee.
Yeah.
A stove, and even bring your own Duralogs to burn in the stove.
That would have been nice if we had a stove.
The way you did it with the Hilleberg, never going to do that. Why would I do that when I could camp in a warm teepee?
Yeah. I mean, we weren't at that level yet, like at the Brian Call level, but.
So what about the whole grizzly bear thing?
Yeah.
And everyone who has never been to Kodiak or have never hunted in and around grizzly bears, there's usually a natural, healthy dose of trepidation and fear of the grizzly situation. What was that like for you, and how did you guys manage that?
So for me, it never really crossed my mind, honestly. I think
you're one of those.
It doesn't seem scary. I don't know. It seems like such a rare occurrence. Like,
yeah.
I grew up like going to the beach, and I'm more scared of sharks attacking me just because you can't see them coming. I mean, that's more scary to me. But no, we did see a lot of grizzly bears. Pretty much all sows and cubs. Like, we immediately, you'll see in the movie, like pretty much immediately as we're setting up camp, we look across the lake and there's a sow, I think 3 cubs just running, and I was like scrambling to grab my camera and get it. It's all shaky, but But yeah, they were, and you can rent those bear fences from your air service super easy.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just called the air service and they had it. They're like, oh yeah, just get it from this guy in town, and it was pretty easy and cheap. Yeah.
So you didn't buy one then?
No. You can just rent it in town. Super easy. And they just run on batteries.
Did you get shocked?
I did not test it personally, but yeah.
I heard it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I've not experienced it.
I've touched a chicken fence before and it like lit me up. But so.
I've thought about bringing it on a couple of hunts, but so far, with llamas and I'd only do it if I had llamas. I wouldn't throw them in a backpack if I'm backpacking. Yeah. And there are some areas we've been, some Wyoming-ish, Montana-ish spots that have some renowned grizzly bear attack activity. They just have some real a-holes in there.
Because they're not hunted. They're not scared of you.
And they're just inland. They're just aggressive. Yeah. They're animal eaters. They're not fish eaters. Right. They just tend to have, and they kill bow hunters and stuff. That's just, someone wrote an article the other day. So Ben O'Brien, I think it was. Okay. And there's a link to it, I think, on his Instagram page, which was linked to his art. I think he wrote it for Peterson's magazine. And anyway, in there, he talks about how, often we are told, or we tell ourselves, or we interpret the data to say, the odds of you getting attacked by a grizzly bear are so slim, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times those statistics are applying to the entire population of the United States.
Not people in grizzly bear country.
With meat, actively calling and stealthily hunting. Like, the statistics change dramatically. Sure. Yeah. So it's kind of foolish to look at it as, if you're going into grizzly bear country, as a situation where, the odds are just so slim.
Yeah.
Now, the odds go up quite a bit. And I think that was the gist of his article. I didn't actually read it, but he made a comment about it. And I want to get around to reading it because I think it's great to I'd like to hear what he says. Maybe some of you guys did catch it, and you can leave a comment on the YouTube video here where the podcast is posted. But I'm curious, but I do think that there are certain areas where a fence like that, I know Nate Simmons has hunted some traditionally mean grizzly country.
Yeah.
And has even had his tent destroyed and had his camp just thrashed by...
It's not a bad idea.
By a nasty bear. Doesn't seem to care at all that there's humans there. In fact, it seems more keen. So in some of those places, I do think that, a fence is peace of mind.
Sure.
But I also think sacrificial llamas work well, too.
Sacrificial. Well, the other thing about August is, too, theoretically, most of the bears are down low because of the salmon run, and they're well fed. So, I think in Kodiak, later in the season, when there's not much salmon.
Sleepy and their bellies are full.
Yeah, there's not, but later in the year, maybe there's not as much fish around. But anyway, we carried pistols. I have a Glock 20. That's my weapon of choice back there, or any kind of bear country. And I think somebody had bear spray. I prefer a pistol, but they were super polite.
They ran away when they smelled you.
Yeah, they ran away. Like, the area that we shot our deer in, we saw a sow and a cub, probably 150 yards from where we field dressed our deer, and we were making some noise intentionally going through there, but anytime they had any kind of inkling that we were in the area, they were out of there.
Off.
Yeah. So I never felt scared or unsafe or anything, even seeing the bears.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys then take your deer. When you broke them down, did you have trouble preserving the meat? Because it is pretty warm in August.
Yeah. So what we did was, and especially since we shot one basically on the first day.
Yep.
So a couple things were working in our favor. One was that the weather was pretty chilly, given that it was cold and rainy and cloudy. So that helped us out, and it was getting to the high 30s at night. But what we did was made a little. We got some lake rocks, kind of piled them up there that would kind of keep their coolness. Put the meat on top there in game bags. Then we made a little, a little lean-to or A-frame kind of thing with a tarp just to kind of keep the sun off and stuff. And we considered hiking up to a little snowbank and getting some snow to put on the meat, but it didn't become an issue. even on the last day, I cut off some of the first deer and ate some, and it was fine.
Gotcha.
So we were good there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I ended up, when I was in Prince of Wales, I ended up putting my deer in a cold creek.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. I bring heavy-duty contractor bags, like non-scented or whatever, and I put the meat in there, and I get it tied up tight, and then I put it at the bottom of a creek or whatever and stack rocks on it, and it'll keep, I don't know, it's like a refrigerator for a couple weeks, I think.
We considered that in the lake, but I think if it had come to that and we really felt like we needed to, we would have, but I think we felt like we were good with what we had, and it worked out.
Your overall opinion of the adventure, was it physically more demanding than you expected? Less? What was it like?
Physically, it's kind of what you make it. I mean, we saw deer way across canyon that we could have gone after, and we probably would have gotten rhabdo and died.
Yeah.
But we were smart and just didn't go after those deer.
Okay.
So it's kind of what you make it. And then, the 2 bucks we ended up killing at the end there, it was a decent little hefty pack out, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we definitely, we were looking for deer. So we put on the miles. We weren't hanging out around camp much. But it's just, I guess it's just kind of what you make it, it's definitely something that is doable for like a medium fitness level, I would say. And, if you're just looking to just go out there and maybe you're not the fittest guy in the world, I mean, you can definitely do it on this style of hunt. And then if you are super fit and you want to like bomb across canyon and chase after deer, you can do that too.
I like it. So, any words of advice for people who are thinking about doing this? Never done it before? Just do it.
Do it. Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, it's a great way to start in Alaska. You'll probably want to go back. It's not that expensive. You can get tags over the counter. You can get multiple tags. I really like this time of year to do it. I mean, I think the rut would also be really cool too. But if you like camping and staying out, I recommend. I think you should just do it.
What dates did you kill the big hardhorn bucks?
So that would have been approximately August 20th.
Yeah. Pretty late in August, but later.
Like the second week of August.
I'm not a velvet horned guy.
No, I was hoping for hard horn.
I think I am ready to accept into my life a large velvet mule deer.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I mean, it has to be big or I don't want it.
Right.
I really like hardhorn deer. Yeah. And
you got to preserve that velvet too. I mean, it's almost like preserving meat.
Yeah, we have a taxidermy Tuesday thing we're doing for the next 4 to 8 weeks or whatever it is. We recorded a little podcast about taxidermy every day for every Tuesday we're going to drop one. It's just little tidbits. And there's actually some cool products out there that really help with
like the velvet lock.
The velvet. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And it sounds like, I mean, from what he was saying, it's legit. Yeah. Also, to prevent the hides from slipping and stuff like that, if you're we're going to bring it for some bear stuff, at least when we have llamas, might as well.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Anyway. So, yeah, I think I was curious because I would want to kill one during that time too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping for a hard-horned, just not have to deal with the, taking it home and it getting funky or whatever. So, and I just, we skinned our heads out in the hotel room and I
did the same thing in New Zealand.
Yeah. Carried it on the airplane. My buddies
bringing the meat home in the schools and all that's not hard at all.
Yeah. Like we went to Walmart and picked up those, cooler boxes. And we used the walk-in freezer at the hotel. They were cool about it. Froze the stuff, put them in the boxes, and it cost a little extra, obviously. But I put the skull in my carry-on and just went through the airport with it.
Nice.
And I loved all the looks I got. I was like,
right on. Well, folks, there you have it. That's a little tidbit on Kodiak. And check out Hunter. Hunter, you have a podcast called The Hunter's Quest.
Yes, sir.
And also, they can find you on your Instagram, which is...
You just search my name, Hunter Mcwaters.
Hunter Mcwaters. And, of course, there's links in the description field of this video. So go give Hunter a follow. Check out his film. It's on the Gritty YouTube channel. And hopefully we get a lot more film coming from Hunter over the next year. He's doing some edits for me at Gritty, and we'll be doing some Hunts. He'll be helping film and all that as well.
Fun season.
We're gonna see if we can break Hunter.
See if they can teach me a thing or two.
Yeah, we're gonna bring this greenhorn along, and teach him some things. So he's eager to learn.
Yeah.
So
I'm a sponge.
Yeah, we got you, and we got Brad Hunt, we got Lampers, Livesay. We got some fun stuff with the crew, and we're gonna put some things together. So that's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to use the code GRITTY over at Peaks if you need some gaiters, some trekking poles, or the new headlamp. That thing is long lasting and a great piece of kit. And then use the code GRITTY over at Mountain Ops. They have some new Yeti over there.
Oh, the high
that'll light you on fire.
Yeah.
I'm actually a fan. I wish I had it here. It's got like a werewolf on the front of the package.
The other day, it was like, my face is tingling.
My face is itching. If you don't like your face to feel like it's on fire, maybe not. But I love that feeling, especially when I'm going to go get busy. So check that out. Also, I like that Mountain Ops hoodie, merino. I wear that on most of my hunts. Check out the apparel there. And Stealthy Nutrition. It's kind of the foundation, the CBD oils and the...
I used that this year. It really actually helped my back.
The CBD oil and the krill oil are some mainstays. So are the sleep stuff that formulas that they have. I also use the immune probiotic and the health. My daughter's been using that a lot. The vitamin D and K. It's all solid stuff that Stealthy Nutrition has to help you be healthier and stronger and less prone to being sick and all that stuff. So check that out. And I think that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in and stay gritty.